Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I'm about to read you all the folks that are in here, but before I get busy, I have to do one little bit of housekeeping that I did not yet complete, which I am doing right as we speak. How is everybody doing? I trust that your Monday is turning out as good as mine so far is not. I hope. Anyway, folks, we're going to have, like I said, a great show. I'm about to do my last cue here. And as I'm done with my last cue, we'll be ready to say, hey, guys, how's everybody doing? This is El Lunes. This is Monday. Welcome aboard, Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain. Welcome, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita, both places, I guess. Welcome, May Wood, Long Beach, California. Welcome, Lee Grant, Montgomery County. Welcome, Bridge MCP, upstate New York. Welcome to, who else am I missing? I think I've got everybody that's on thus far, but I'm trying to make sure that my mind continues to run. And by making sure I can remember all those things, it means we're in business. Anyway, all right, let's see what we got here. Paul Fleming says, breaking the Supreme Court sides with the Biden administration, paving the way for federal officials to remove razor wire along the Texas border with Mexico. I saw that. Justice Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh, the ones we expect, voted against it, and the others were sensible and humane. So we had the evil ones and the humane ones. Love it. Love it. Muchísimas gracias por hacer eso, mia gente. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Paul Fleming says Dexter Scott King, the youngest son of Martin Luther King and Coretta passed away at the age of 62. Rest in peace. What happened? I didn't hear that story. What happened to him, Paul? All right. What else we got here? Let's see. Lee Grant says we have a little civil war in Texas versus the feds. Abbott versus the Fed, and Abbott is bound to lose. Remember, Abbott needs the feds more than the feds need Abbott. Abbott is just a paper tiger that we need to neuter in the next gubernatorial election. It's that simple. All right, Paul Fleming says Fox News, Fox reporter would do larger tax cuts for corporations. Trump, yeah, I was planning on doing it. I mean, you can't do that and still give the programs that the people that most need it get. And guess who are those needy people, Trump? The people who vote for you. More of the people who vote for you are in the needy column than the people who vote for Biden. You didn't know that, did you? Well, you need to take a journey down Appalachia. You need to take a journey down Mississippi. You need to take a journey down Louisiana. You need to take a journey down Alabama. Georgia. Georgia. It's on my mind. I should pull out my guitar and start singing Georgia. Georgia is on my mind. I love that song, especially when it's done by either what's his name? Who does Georgia? You know who I'm talking about. All right, E2247 is in the house. How you doing, E2247? Biden himself says military strikes against Yemeni stronghold hadn't worked, yet he insists they'll continue. Biden with UK took military action against the Houthis to restore America's deterrence. Well, deterrence only works if it works, right? That's it. It only works if it works. All right. I got a great interview. You know, I'm into unions, and we have a local person here who just gave us the TikTok on how he got his company unionized. So let's go ahead and listen to brother Kevin Higgins Jr., who, interestingly, his father had, let's see, Bridge wants something on the screen beforehand. Let me put it on the screen before I go to the video. All right, let's see, Bridge. Let's go ahead and put that on the screen for you. And it says, it's fixed. Okay, okay, okay. It's fixed. There we go. Why there is a border crisis in 2023. Here we go. Hey, AVQ has decided to join us late. Welcome aboard, AVQ from Brooklyn, New York, our one and only Michael Rudnin. All right. Why there is a border crisis in 2023. In 2022, Republicans voted against necessary border funding, opposing $7.2 billion for Border Patrol operations. Also, also $65 million for 300 more Border Patrol agents and $60 million for additional personnel at ports of entry. Republicans created the current problem so they could use the border as a fear mongering dog whistle against Biden. That's very typical. Very, very typical. Anyhow, continuing, let's go ahead and go to the interview that I did last night with this guy's dad participated with us in Occupy Kingwood. Occupy Kingwood. It turns out his son has learned well and he's occupied his place of employment, for which we are very, very proud. Here we go. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today, I have a special guest. Like I tell you guys all of the times, it's the rank and file folks, the people on the ground that make things happen. Don't believe what you hear about these executives or these big shots. It's the people on the ground doing the work. I'm honored to have Kevin Higgins Jr. How are you doing, Kevin?
Hi, how's it going, Alberto? Good to
I
be
am
here.
doing great. Let me tell you, a newspaper article came out titled, Workers with Harris County's Nonprofit Mental Health Provider Seek to Have Union Recognized. Let me tell you, Kevin, I'm one of those people who believe every rank and file worker should belong to a union. Tell me a little bit about what you guys did at the Harris County Mental Health Provider. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so wow. Okay, so about 10 to 12 months ago, we reached out to CWA
Mm-hmm.
and we started discussions on how we were going to create our union. And we've been in touch with our organizers at CWA, and we've been collecting signatures for the last, like I said, 10 or so months. And we've designed a union logo. We've met with, Rodney Ellis and Lena Hidalgo, and we have a lot of support in the local political community. So we're kind of building a little ecosystem here where we can get leverage to kind of state our case and get what we want.
Now, according to the article, you guys haven't seen significant increase in the wages and benefits over the last 20 years or so. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think we got a slight like 40 cent, a 40 cent raise
Uh-huh.
last year. It's not significant. It's not adjusting for the cost of living and the inflation that we're experiencing, and kind of burden as workers to kind of suck it up and take it. But yeah, a lot of workers have been here for 20 years and have not received a significant raise or received any kind of like expansion of benefits, for instance. Like it's becoming a problem because we're being sort of priced out of the same community that we're serving.
That is
So
amazing. That seems to happen all the time. Now, this
yeah,
this is the Harris County. This is a nonprofit. Is that correct?
yeah. So it's kind of it's kind of a weird situation because they like to use the term nonprofit when it sort of benefits them, but really we're an apparatus of the county. We're like a, I guess that's a good question because, like I said, they like to use they like to use certain language when they don't have money. Oh, well, we're a nonprofit, we can't afford these increases, but they have access to government funding, they have access to state funding, they have access to federal loans, and they can, if they wish to, you know, file for them.
Now, the
But
Harris County,
yeah,
yeah, the Harris County, the Harris Center for Mental Health. You guys have 2,000 workers, and I imagine it take if you take a look at it, I imagine the executives that run this particular quote unquote nonprofit, they never
yeah,
suffer not having their high wages. Correct? The executives of this
yeah.
organization.
So the executives, they so it's interesting you say that because they have not been transparent in their salaries. We haven't seen in 8 years. 8 years they have not disclosed what their salaries are, what their bonuses are, and a lot of people are a little frustrated by that because transparency would be nice in this situation. If everybody had to share the burden of, pulling up ourselves by the bootstraps and tightening our belts, that's one thing. But you can't ask people to do that while simultaneously not disclosing your your salaries or your bonuses. So,
Absolutely. Now,
yeah.
what services does Harris Center for Mental Health provide to the Harris County community?
Yeah, so we're the largest mental health provider in the state of Texas. So we serve a lot of people. We do everything from crisis intervention, IDD and autism services, emergency mental health services. That's where I work at the Neuropsychiatric Emergency Center and Stabilization Center. Case management. Um, we do jail diversion and kind of jail rehabilitation. Oh boy, the services seem to be endless. The longer I work here, the more programs I learn about that we're involved in. It's endless. It's a
So
lot of work.
it's
Yeah.
extensive. It's a necessary service, especially in these times when we have a lot of mental issues, mental health issues with our population. And it's not just a Harris County population; it's a population of the United States at large. Now, interestingly, uh, people have been trained, they have been indoctrinated over the last several decades, probably 40 years or so, actually more. I don't know if you know, there's this stuff called the Powell Memo that has been trying for decades to, well, it's a blueprint to try to disenfranchise people. They don't quite define it that way. And one of the things were to malign unions. And for the longest time, unions have been maligned, and the people that would benefit the most from unions have been convinced that unions are not good
Yes.
for them. That's why
Oh
I
boy.
was so
Yeah.
excited when I saw the work of a young person like yourself actually engage your workforce to ensure that you got enough signatures to make forming a union a reality. Tell me about how you accomplished that.
Yeah, so we worked very closely with CWA, and we have a lot of great people within our own organization. And we kind of like set this foundation work for networking, setting up forms of communication, message boards, getting the word out within the workplace, and then kind of like having workshops about how to meet and reach people at work, and kind of like kind of just the do's and not to do's of approaching people about forming a union. And there was a lot of work, a lot of meetings that went down, and we kind of had to kind of organically create this environment so we could do the work, you know.
Now, what kind of pushback did you get from the executives?
So far, um, so far there's been a lot of like double speak,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, oh well, we don't think a separate organization should be getting in between us and our
Of
employees.
course, of course.
There's a lot of like famous tropes that
Right.
like a lot of like anti-union tropes that kind of get thrown out there. Um, I want to, yeah, there's a lot of like that kind of language. I haven't experienced anybody confronting me about my union activity or participation, but I know that some of my colleagues, brothers and sisters, have felt some of that. But I can't personally myself speak to like individual, um, any altercations. But yeah, so I think we have seen some statements publicly by Wayne Young, who's the CEO, uh, basically kind of doing like a double speak, kind of not wanting to really, um, not wanting to address the issues that we're presenting, saying things like, "Oh, well, I have an open office. My door is always open.
Of course.
Anybody can come in." But we know that that dynamic, there's a power dynamic. There's a power imbalance in
Right.
that
Well, the fact of the
situation.
matter is, if they really cared, they wouldn't have left you guys hanging for decades without a pay
Hmm.
increase, a substantive pay increase. Now, one of the
Yeah,
advantages you guys seem to have over, let's say, unionizing many other places is that you had the actual support. Or it seemed to me like, based on what I'm reading, you had the support of Lena Hidalgo and Rodney Ellis. Is that correct?
that's correct. Yes. Yeah, we had kind of a little press event with the media on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Houston Chronicle article about that, and they were really gracious with their time, and were able to, yeah, it's great having people like that back us,
Judge Lina
and
Hidalgo and Commissioner
Lean Hidalgo,
Rodney Endless. Yeah.
Rodney Ellis, yes.
I mean, and that is
Um,
so important that a part of government comes in and say, yes, we are standing up for the people and that we know what how the system have left many so aggrieved. Now, if you had first of all, like I said earlier, many people have been indoctrinated into a false belief that unions are not good. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to do what you and your team has done at the Harris Center for Mental Health to start a union? Like I said before, corporations have unions. They call them trade unions. They call them all kinds of the metallurgy union, all these things where they get together so as a force they can attain something. In your case, they try that to make employees not do that. What would be your advice first to convince the employees that unions are a necessary thing, and secondly, have the courage and the fortitude to do it?
Yeah, so one thing that unifies all of us is we all have a boss and we're all workers, you know? So when you can kind of get down to kitchen sink politics and talk to people about their day-to-day issues like gas, the price of gas, price of all these amenities that have gone up, and you explain to people in basic terms that like we're if we get a union, our pay is going to significantly increase and we'll actually have a seat at the table and we'll be able to democratize our workplace. So when people hear things like democratize your workplace, pay increases, um, expanded benefits, people are a little more receptive because there's, like you said, there's been this um, campaign for the last 40, 50 years, even before Reagan, I'm
Right,
assuming, of
right.
anti-union um, sentiment within our political discourse. But yeah, I mean, when you just break things down item by item, talk to people about day-to-day stuff, and they tend to relate. You know, they
Look,
like
let
the
me
idea of a democracy at work.
It is so important, Kevin, and that is what's so exciting. And when I tell you, I am genuinely excited because for all the things that we promote, and that is people taking command of their own lives, people taking command of their own personal economies. That is what you have done. That's what you all have done collectively, which is, I think, one of the most important things to do to give people hope, to give people to make sure that people know we can't empower them because they're already empowered. They just needs to use said empowerment like you all did to get the job done. The last question I always ask is an easy one, but yet a hard one. What would
Okay.
you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Gosh.
I told you.
Oh my gosh. Alberto, you were very thorough. Uh,
I won't put you. I won't
I
hold
don't,
it on. I won't hold you to it. But
yeah.
I just want to. I
Um,
just want to say that just in case there's something else that you wanted to get out. But I'm glad that
mm,
you got all that you wanted to get out. Kevin
yeah.
Higgins, a hospital transfer coordinator and organizing committee member that got the job done. It was my pleasure to have you on Politics Done Right, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me.
We I was very happy, very, very happy to hear that from our good friend Kevin Higgins and Junior. And just like we have in our own PDR posse, Yvette Avery Herod, who is our what I call our union specialist or union activist or union everything. I am so proud, and Yvette would tell you every time I hear something that she's doing, I'm like, "Hey, Yvette, you need to come on PDR and tell us a little bit about that story." Because again, there's nothing like workers taking command of what they do. They are the ones providing the labor. Absent these guys, absent the UPS driver, absent the UPS packer, absent the persons working in this mental institution to bring the people in from everywhere, they've got nothing. So it's all about the worker. It's all about the worker. Let's see. Paul Fleming says Trump is campaigning in New Hampshire, telling voters there needs to be granted presidential immunity. It's funny, right? In fact, it's clear his whole purpose isn't getting reelected, is so his power is to use his power to stay out of prison. He's always been in this for himself, not the country. I'm wondering when the people are going to snap into form and realize that. And also, Paul says the Dow Jones Industrial Average closed above 38,000 points for the first time ever on Monday, setting a record high and capping a steady rise that stretches week. The S&P 500 also reached a record high, closing at above 4850. Look, folks, You know, the notion that if you listen to all these guys that are promoting Trump, oh, the economy was better under Trump, oh, this, oh, that. Trump left with a negative unemployment, folks. Let's remember this. When Trump left, there were less jobs than he took. You know, he wants you to remember his first 2 years and not the pandemic. Well, he's responsible for all 4 years and he screwed up the pandemic. Let's remember the true Trump administration. I hope the Biden administration is creating the entire picture, putting light into your nose to stop COVID, drinking, putting bleach into your veins. We can inject bleach into you, right? We can inject bleach into you, right? Uh, going and look, I mean, this guy so mismanaged COVID that it cost us over a million people, a million Americans that didn't have to died under Donald Trump. Let's be clear here. Let's be clear. The tax cuts that he gave was to the rich, which meant there was not going to be a net gain in employment activity. The Laffer curve, remember, is a Laffer. That's all it is. The Laffer curve that says cut taxes and somehow you're going to make more in taxes from these cut taxes. Only a buffoon, my brothers. I don't like to speak this way, but you have to be mentally incapacitated to fall for that indoctrinative failed policy. It has never, ever worked. It has, I repeat, never, ever worked. Supply side economics has always been a fraud. Gene Daigle, welcome aboard. Gene Daigle says, hey, Gene, where are you from? I think right here in Houston, right? Longest period of unemployment being under 4% in over 50 years, been under for 25 consecutive months. Yeah, let's remember that. Michael Rudden says Trump's administration coasting off of the Obama economy while screwing whatever minorities pissed off the right wing bubble that week, then completely botching the pandemic response, putting the economy over people, resulting in excess of 400,000 Americans dead. I guess that's an excess. It's over a million that died, but that if he had done it right, it would be been 400,000 less. China was a true mismanager of China. No, it was the United States. The virus was in China. The United States, once found here, could have created all kinds of isolation mechanisms. You know why we never had an Ebola crisis in America? Because when Obama was in office, Obama went to the source of Ebola. Obama went to all the entry points that Ebola could have come into the country and shut them down the best he could. It never materialized. Remember, if you contain, but you have to be honest. Alvin, Texas. I got to put that in my mind, Daigle. Gene Daigle, Alvin, Texas. I like when in the beginning of the program when I'm calling people out, I like to call where you're from. Uh, Daigle, Alvin, Texas, the same place that Nolan Ryan is from, our star Astros player. All right. What else have we got here? Okay, I got another video for you. Poetic justice is an interesting thing, folks. You remember when the right wing was trying to make it look like Donald Trump was the doofus? I mean that Biden was a doofus and he was a bumbling person in the way he spoke and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting because the bumbling, you know what, is really whom again? El Señor Donaldo Trump. I want you to watch this, and then we'll take it on the other side, en el otro lado. Let's go. Poetic justice and karma, when they come together, they can be pretty darn rough. Remember, for the longest time, the skit that all these right wingers were doing is somehow Biden walk into the wrong place or Biden confused. They try to make everything seem as if Biden were confused, that Biden wasn't mentally all the way upstairs. Well, it turns out, like always, what is the most famous things that those right wingers do, the right wing politicians, Republican politicians do? They are great projectors. In other words, the deficiencies that they have, the immoralities that they have, all these things that they have that would make them look, well, you know how, they project it onto someone else. And that's exactly what they did. And now, as it turns out, because Trump is always out there, we can roll it and see who may be a bit mentally deprived, mentally unstable, mentally maybe kind of losing it a bit. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
Obama, we won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. Obama dropped missiles and they ended up hitting a kindergarten. If that's the case, he's going to end up being indicted when he leaves office.
Obama he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want to he doesn't even mention them in his statements. It's all coming through Iran.
Well, you mean President Biden?
They were interviewing him 2 weeks ago, and they said, what would you advise President Obama? The whole world seems to be exploding. They never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, so whatever they want. They turned it down.
He was confused. He was confused the same way he said Joe Biden was going to start World War II.
We would be in World War II very quickly if we're going to be relying on this man.
Clearly, Donald Trump is not the same Trump from 2016.
When I came here, everyone thought Bush was going to win. They thought Bush because Bush supposedly was a military person. Great. You know what? He was a military. He got us into the Middle East. We came up with a new couple of words for corn. Viktor Orban, Hungary, very powerful. He fronts on both Russia and Ukraine. They were funding Hezbollah and Hamas.
When he gets off the teleprompter, there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of stream of consciousness stuff.
We're also going to place strong protections to stop banks and regulators from trying to debank you from your political beliefs, what they do. They want to debank you, and we're going to debank. Think of this. A very big hello to a place where we've done very well, Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Sioux Falls. So Sioux City, let me ask you, how many people come from Sioux City?
You know, the Nikki Haley thing
That one
was disturbing. We talked about this on Friday about Obama and his problems, and there was actually some poor guy who said, "Oh, they're making things up now to distract from Joe Biden." No, I'm not trying to distract from Joe Biden. Joe Biden's doing just fine. We're talking about the fact that time and time again, Donald Trump, who's obviously, as Ron DeSantis said, lost more than a step, and as Nikki Haley says, is really confused up there. And she says, well, our kids deserve better than somebody that doesn't know where they are or what they're doing. But you see him go through his speech and he struggles and he starts to say Obama, and then he cuts himself off because his mind's going, wait, is Obama really president? Still,
What decade am I in?
And then he continues and he goes ahead and just says Obama's name because he can't remember Biden's name. And we had the same thing the other night where he goes, Nikki. He says it 3 times. And then he moves on thinking that, wait, but that doesn't sound quite right, but maybe that's right. And then he comes back and he accuses Nikki Haley of being Nancy Pelosi on January 6th.
So there you go. Donald Trump. If that were Joe Biden, think about what the media would have been doing with it. It would have been played up all over. It would be on reels over and over again. Thank you, Joe Scarborough and team, for actually putting this montage together. Because, as it turns out, we don't get this kind of coverage on the mainstream media generally. In other words, they'll talk about it in passing, but actually to hammer home exactly what somebody like Trump is doing. I mean, if President Biden trips, if President Biden stutters, it's the end of the world. His mind's going. But Donald Trump, for many, many seconds, sometimes over a minute, he talks nonsense. And people see that as being coherent. Is that somebody you want the red button? Well, you don't want him close to the red button no matter what. But is that who you really think should be controlling our country? I don't think so.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
All right, okay. So that is the guy that some of you want to run this country. Somebody that can't remember who is president, who was Speaker of the House during the insurrection that he caused. Oh, so many things. But you want him to be president, right? And let's get this virus thing down packed, okay? Because I am a scientist, well, an engineer, a step below a scientist, all right? And let me be clear. In other words, I let the scientists do the work, and engineers actually learn what the scientists did and create something useful with it. That's what engineers are. But let me tell you, all right? Forget. I don't care if the virus was engineered by China. The fact that we didn't contain the virus is the issue. The fact that we didn't treat the virus like the emergency that it was is the issue. Countries who did, okay, then those countries did fine. Without all the advanced vaccines or anything, Panama did fine. Well, we had a lot of debts too, but not like the United States. And it's idiotic to actually say Fauci is to be blamed. That just doesn't add up with the facts. But again, when you get your information from that sort of stuff, it can actually mess with your mind. So we have a lot of people on the right who look rather, I'll be as nice as I can, but it's the truth. The right makes many of you good people look fairly dumb because it stops you from looking at the science. It stops you from being scientific. It stops you from doing the research on your own just because it fits a profile you hope that it would fit. I don't even care, Rudnin, if China created this virus and it slipped out. I don't even care about that, right? The fact that we couldn't contain it is the issue. We could have contained it. Anyhow, but we'll look again. There are some people that don't mind surrounding themselves with ignorance, surrounding themselves with being less than mentally competent. Okay? So again, the person responsible for the many hundreds of thousands of dead Americans is the person trying to be president again, and that is Donald Trump. And he won't get anywhere close to that. No, Rudnin, COVID can be contained. Yes, it's airborne, but it could have been contained. And the way you would have contained it is exactly the way we eventually contained it before the vaccine. It's exactly how other countries contained it before the vaccine. You see, look at the silly things that Eric is talking about. Oh no, the NIH funded to kill Americans. Oh my God, think about that. Eric, if you don't see that how that makes you look, I'm sorry, but I mean it makes you look very unintelligent. To put it bluntly, my brother, I love you, but it really makes you look dumb. And it really makes me feel like there's something wrong upstairs. For people who believe this kind of stuff, that somehow this machination could work. I am sorry to say it that way, but I can't help it. It makes you honestly look dumb. But you're not. Get away from your ideological infarct, and then you'll do fine. All right. Bree says, Egberto, Trump said in New Hampshire, he says Obama because he thinks Obama is running the show behind Biden. And he took another cognitive test, laughing my ass off. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Uh, Daigle says, remember that Obama and the NIH and the CDC had many locations around the world set up to test the viruses early. Under Trump 85, all of those locations were closed down. Yeah. And again, Michael says other countries' mask mandates, stay-at-home mandates limited their deaths compared to the U.S., where our people actively became super spreaders just to own the lives. Exactly, Michael. That's why I said we could have contained it. Here's the funny thing about it, right? Think about this. If we stopped immigration or contained immigration tightly, and you remember that 2-week stay-home thing? That would work if folks abide by it, right? Because the people who have the viruses would come in, quarantine, it dies out. And, but again, it requires the behavior of people. But it can be contained because look, you breathe it in the air, it's airborne. It goes into the sun, it gets ultraviolet lights, and eventually it goes out, you know? So, I mean, it's amazing. Anyway, it's sad that we have to our brothers and some of our brothers and sisters allow themselves for ideological reasons to put their own their health, the health of their families, and not only that, the future intelligence of their offspring in danger. But we try our best to do, and that's what Politics Done Right is here for, to try to do some form of education, some form of education. All right, let's go ahead for the third video, Senator Klobuchar and abortion. I want you guys to listen to this one. This is a good one because it shows the failure of Democrats to articulate certain things appropriately. And in doing so, we sort of give many on the right an entry point. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. We need Democrats to be very prepared with answers at every angle, in every direction, when they're in front of the media. Already, I don't care what news network we're on, progressives and Democrats seem to have to go the extra mile in answering questions. They have to even justify truths that they tell, unlike Republicans who come on, spew lies, spew misinformation, spew things that are not accurate, and don't really get questions many of the times. Well, Senator Amy Klobuchar appeared with today on MSNBC, and she was presented with a video from that showed Nikki Haley stating that abortion, the Democrats are lying about abortion. To have a national ban will require 60 senators, and they know that will never happen. Okay, let's listen to this exchange, and we'll explain where Klobuchar failed in the response.
Nikki Haley said on Sunday on Face the Nation that the threat of a national abortion ban is a lie put forth by Democrats. Let's watch.
60 senators would never approve a ban on abortion. That's a fact. That's a fact. So why put out something that's implying something's going to happen to the American people that is a lie? That's never going to happen.
Is a national abortion ban not a threat?
It is a threat. You know why? Number one, people said it wasn't a threat to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and it happened. Number two, President Trump, leading in every poll, has in the past said women should be punished. And now I guess we say to the voters of this country, who would they rather have in? Someone who has said he supported bans in the past, or someone like Joe Biden, who has made it very clear that he wants to codify Roe v. Wade into law and guarantee that women have the right to make their own decisions about their health care and not politicians.
All right, Nikki Haley, in the olden days, that may have been true. In the olden days, yep, you got to get that 60 votes to change the abortion law nationally. Yep, you need those 60 votes. But We already have precedents. The highest court of the land, a Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell just said, all right, we don't need 60 votes anymore. To hell with the filibuster. We'll do it 50 plus 1. So what Klobuchar should have said is Nikki Haley's statement that somehow it's going to require 60 votes to change it makes no sense given the history of the Senate, given the history of Republican control of the Senate after having selected the Supreme Court justices with not the 60 votes that one would expect, but with 51 votes. It is so important that we are ready to answer the questions and make the American people understand. Don't fall for the smoke and mirrors from the right. Don't fall for it, because they say whatever they get to come into power. And when they're in power, what ultimately happens is you get hurt as they try to blame someone else. Wake up, smarten up, get your head on right. It is so important that you get your head on right, but you can't let them, they've lost the abortion debate. So what they're trying to say is, even though the states can do what they want, don't worry, it won't go national. So even if you live in Alabama, or if you live in Mississippi, or if you live in Texas, you can go ahead and get your abortion in Illinois, in New York, in California, in New Mexico, So let's keep our ideology, our hypocritical ideology here. It won't go national, so you can still go out of state. Of course, if you're a poor person, you're hosed because you don't have the mobility to go to California or any one of these places, right? But even that statement is false. Why? Because just like they killed the filibuster, McConnell did for the Supreme Court, so will they do when, if for some magical reason, Donald Trump came into power and the Republicans took over Congress by a vote or two, they'll have the necessary amount of votes. They'll simply kill the filibuster for that bill and go ahead and pass the bill. Okay? Passed. That's what it's all about. Don't be fooled. Don't allow them to make you dumb. Remember, they screwed up, they caught the dog, and that's where we're all. Just in, the US and UK have staged airstrikes against multiple targets in Yemen aimed at stopping the Houthis. The White House has insisted the airstrikes have been effective. No, they haven't, but what can I say? All right, Michael Reza Egberto, if you're poor, leaving the state is difficult. Exactly right, brother Rudnin. Let's see what else. Egberto, just moved from Texas or other places. No, we are going to change Texas. We ain't moving anywhere. We're going to simply make Texas a place that people can find, that all people can live happily. You see, if we follow the rules of progressives, everybody's happy. We follow the rules of conservatives, just some are happy. That it's that simple. All right. What else have we got here? Gene Daigle says Republicans are like dogs catching the car. Now they do not know how to do except continuing to take even other women's rights away. I hear you. Paul Fleming says that's not to forget Trump and COVID would go away when it gets hot in the summertime. All right, one more video for you, and you're going to like this one. This is Sununu. Check out, let's watch the immorality and the both, not only immorality, but the insipid nature of this guy. Check this out. If you want to understand why no Republican politician should get your vote, because all of them, if they stayed within the Republican Party, they intend, no matter what, no matter that Donald Trump has over 91 charges against him, they intend to support a criminal as president of the United States. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
As you probably heard this week, Donald Trump argued that a president has to have,
quote, total immunity from prosecution, even for things that cross the line, including, as his lawyers argued in court recently, for killing political rivals. This is what he said at a rally in New Hampshire last night about that.
You're going to have to give the president, you're going to have to allow a president, any president, to have immunity so that that president can act and do what he feels and what his group of advisors feel is the absolute right thing. Otherwise, you're going to have presidents that are totally impotent. And we've had enough of them already. So having immunity is so important. And I hope the Supreme Court has the courage to do that.
Do you agree? Should a president have total immunity even for things that cross the line?
Of course not. The amazing thing about that clip is he was dead serious. He wasn't even making one of his ridiculous jokes. He was dead serious about that. And that should get everybody, I don't care what political party you're from, whether you're an extreme conservative or a socialist liberal, everybody should be concerned with that type of mentality going into the White House.
And yet you are saying if he is the nominee, that you are going to support him. How can you say that you'll support him?
At the end of the day, I think most Republicans are going to get behind the Republican nominee. I'm hoping that it's obviously Nikki Haley.
You're saying that the comments by Donald Trump, everyone should be worried about that. You have said earlier that Trump's rhetoric and actions contributed to the January 6th insurrection. How can you support someone who you believe contributed to the insurrection?
We're here in New Hampshire in the First Nation primary. No one's really thinking about the general election right now.
Now, remember, Governor Sununu is considered that moderate, standard, regular Republican who just wants to cut your taxes and get rid of regulations and everything else should be just fine. That's the type of Republican he's supposed to be. But unlike Chris Christie, which said Donald Trump is a danger and under no condition will I vote for him, Chris Sununu and others, including Nikki Haley, are saying if Donald Trump goes ahead and wins the primary, we will vote for him. But worse, Nikki Haley have also said that if she is elected, she will pardon Donald Trump if he's convicted. Folks, understand this. This is a country that used to at least give the semblance of caring about law and order, that party that is. The Republican Party, that was their mantra. Law and order. Law and order. Well, they neither have law or order right now. The fact that they are willing to be run, the fact that Tim Scott immediately went ahead and endorsed him, that Governor DeSantis immediately endorsed him, it tells you why every single Republican politician must lose in November and why there must be a rebirth of the Republican Party, a party that is the opposition, that actually is a worthwhile opposition, one that really brings ideas. But the current party is nothing more than a fraud, nothing more than a joke. It is nothing more than a joke, and it's hard to believe. Egberto, law and order to Republicans means using the police as a cudgel against minority groups they want to suppress and oppress. I agree with that statement 100%. Estás correcto, mi hermano. Eso es lo que quieren hacer. Quieren que la policía nos manda a todos, especialmente a la gente que me parecen a mí. Right? So, hey, look, I'm just messing around here because we're right at the last 3 minutes of the show. Gene Daigle said, if convicted, these Republicans would still vote for Trump. That is the antithesis of a country that follows the rule of law, meaning they are against everything the founding fathers envisioned. Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So for all of you who says, if Trump is convicted, there are 91 counts against the dude, some one of them is going to be convicted on. 91 counts. And if this criminal finally gets his conviction, we still want him to be Presidente de los Estados Unidos. We still want him to be President of the United States. Oh my God. The law and order party is gone. Anyway, folks, please. We're coming to the end of the show. I want to remind all of you that this show needs your support. Soporta el programa, por favor. Please support the program. How can you do that? ¿Cómo lo puedes hacer? You can support this program by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. politicsdoneright.com/support. The link I just put into the feed. You should see it on Twitch, Twitter, Tumblr, everywhere. I just put it in the feed. Click on that and find whatever form you want to support us is there. But I want to ask you one humongous good thing to do. Subscribe to our newsletter. First of all, it's free. I want to get information out there. So our newsletter is free. But there's a special. Anybody who signs up as a paid subscriber to our newsletter gets access to all of my current 5 books. Not only that, but all my subsequent books will be there for usted, for you to read. So please go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Subscribe to it for free. But those of you who say, I don't only want to do this for free, I also want to support this project, getting the message out, making sure that we populate the internet with blogs, with videos, with audio to promote our message so that we can educate the people, so that the kinds of information that really destroys the minds of people we love, including folks like my brother here, Eric Hayes, and others. Again, they're a part of our family. Eric can't leave the family now. He's a PDR posse. But he still allows himself to be deluded by some people who would use his most inner fears to convince him of things. But you hear what I'm saying. Please support us. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and subscribe. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby, right? I am what? What am I? Oh. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.